Hey Internet, Eric here, and as you can see, I am not here alone. If you're a fan of the horror community, you should know who I am. It took me 17 episodes to actually get an actress on the show, and I think I'm starting off with a really fun one. Miss Beatrice Boepple. Beatrice, thank you for giving me the time this weekend to just sit down and shoot the shit and just have a little fun, talk about your career and what you have going on in the future.
Certainly, certainly. Pleasure to be here.
I usually start these interviews with how I came to know my guest, and I'm not going to go the usual route. I was a fan of, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. I like to do like a little more personal thing, and shout out to her in the chat, Barb from Fear of the Talking Heads. She was hugely involved with Scarefest, which recently happened, and she turned me over to their YouTube channel, and you've done a lot of interviews with them, and I just fell in love with your personality, the fun going, easy, laid back stuff, and that she was kind of egging me on getting you on, and that's how we came to be. So once again, appreciate you being here.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a while actually since I've done interviews. I was doing a whole lot of them back to back, but it's just this last probably almost ever since in Scarefest, my focus has all been just family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hardly ever even on Facebook or anything right now, just trying to keep it up, but yeah, it's been a lot of personal stuff going on.
Well, like I said, with that, I do appreciate you at least giving me some time to talk about your career.
Certainly.
I mentioned earlier with the horror community, you are, I guess you'd say, most known, at least in the community of playing Amanda Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. And it was honestly my introduction to that franchise. So it does have a special place in my heart. It is one that I go to and enjoy a lot. I was doing some research on your website and a few other interviews that you've done. Was this, you actually got the role right away? And you said that was the first time that's ever happened. What was it specifically? Do you know that you did to improve or impress the casting directors or the casting agents?
It's my wonderful personal charm. No, I kind of joke, but I don't know. Maybe it is the truth. I have no idea if I will say this, like Nightmare on Elm Street, all of the Elm Streets, but Elm Street 5 in particular was unbelievably rushed.
Yes.
Fast paced. Everything was go, 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 go. Everything was like one take, unless there was a reason they couldn't do it in one take. So that's why I kind of joke, like maybe they were like, oh my God, we got to get a mom for Freddy Krueger. Like the next person who walks in, if they can speak, we'll hire her, and so maybe I got that. I don't know. I also, and I will say this to any actor, it's been a long time since I've auditioned. Films I've done this past couple of years have been offered me, but in auditioning, one of the things that seemed to work the best for me for everything, when I did Stakeout, when I did all that, is connecting with the director and or producers to do your research as an actor, find out something about them, so that when you go into audition, you actually ask them a question. And that tends to really impress the producers and directors. I mean, who doesn't love to talk about themselves? Most people in the industry do. So, you say, oh my God, by the way, I saw you, way back in, 1940, whatever, you directed such and such with so-and-so. And that was just the first time I've ever seen that kind of camera angle, or just something personal to the director or producer. It shocks them, because usually, actors are all about themselves and the role. And so when you start engaging the director or producer, personally, A, it shows that you've done some research, and B, it hits on their, ego, and they like it, and then also the other thing too is then you become more conversational, because you're not auditioning, you're actually just talking with a person. So I'm trying to think. I don't know that I did that with Steve Hopkins. However, what I did do, the one thing I do remember in that audition is I sang for them, because,
Really?
as people, some of, the fans know, I didn't really want the role. I wasn't a big fan of horror at the time. And while I knew Nightmare on Elm Street, it's certainly, by Elm Street 5 was still not the huge classic. It wasn't time enough to be a classic yet. It was famous, sure, but it wasn't necessarily a classic. And so I had no idea it was going to be such a big thing. and I wasn't particularly into it. So I just kind of went in there auditioning because my agent said, do it. I want you to meet this director. So I guess maybe part of it was I wasn't that invested, so I wasn't nervous or whatever. And I just started chit-chatting with them, and I talked about what I liked in spooky movies living in Japan. And I said, I can do, if she's a nun, I can do really creepy, Catholic songs. And I started to just go, Qui cum patre et filio simul adoratur. And I was singing this weird Catholic song I learned when I was in a play called Once a Catholic. And I said, if you make that all eerie and they ended up using it in the movie, which is so funny. I didn't even realize it for a while until I watched it a couple times. And I'm like, holy crap, that's me singing. Whenever they're looking for Amanda Krueger in the tower, that spooky music, it's very quiet. But if you listen, it's actually me singing.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, and I guess they must have been recording like it was a screen test or something. It's been so long that I don't really remember how or why they were recording me singing, but they did. But I think that also, it was just something different, and so whatever it was, whether they were just desperate or in a rush or I looked so much like Freddy, I don't know what it was, but they're like, yeah, you got the part.
Jeez, how am I going to follow that up? One thing I did want to ask, on the production of that movie, you did mention how it was very rushed, and I know that's the reason why Stephen Hopkins got Predator 2, and he's directed so many other films that I enjoy, like Judgment Night and Ghost in the Darkness. Was there any incidents where where it was like, let's go, and it kind of threw you off your game because you have a decent sized role in it, and was there anything that they had to cut for time that you wish they would have put in?
I'm trying to think. I don't think in Elm Street anything of mine got cut. Surprise, surprise. Because it does. Yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, lots and lots of films I've been in. What you see is less, a lot of the stuff was cut. And that's the way, all filmmakers know you always film more than you're going to use. And depending on the time constrict, especially if it's going to be going into the cinemas back in the day, well, probably TV even more so, there's very set time limits. So, but in Elm Street, no, things didn't get cut, but most things were like 1 or 2 takes. But when you're doing that with special effects or practical effects, it can be a big challenge. And I think I've shared the story with, I often share the story with fans at conventions, but anytime you use animals.
Yes. I love this story.
Yeah. When you use animals, you're not going to get it in one take. It just doesn't happen because animals are very unpredictable. They say animals and babies. Should I tell the story of the pigeons?
Please do. Please do.
Actually, trying to think if I have that poster. But anyway, most of the scenes in Elm Street, when Amanda's there, there's always pigeons flying around. And
right.
And the big scene where I come through the church doors after Freddy's grown up, and I'm saying your birth was the curse on the whole of humanity, that whole thing. That scene should have taken just like one take, because my lines were simple, and I had, back in the day, film is for me so much easier, in the sense that you film one scene, and especially like union shows, you don't film that much during one day, so, and you do lots and lots of takes, so you can it's not such a harsh thing to learn your whole script. Whereas these indie films, these low budget films that I've been doing the past couple of years, that's guerrilla warfare. That's a lot more work because they try to film the entire film in like less than a week. So It's a lot more work for the actors. But anyway, so in Elm Street, so I'm coming out, your birth was the curse on the whole of humanity. I shall not allow it to happen again. And Freddy, that's the whole we'll see, bitch, thing.
Yeah.
So the story is that I'm standing behind the doors, and they had these incredible sets. They actually built these giant doors and this room that was it was all in a warehouse, but they made it look like a church, with all the dust and stained glass windows. I mean, I think they did a phenomenal job.
Oh, I love the look of that movie so much.
Right, so gothic and dark.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they had 2 guys, one on either side, behind the doors to open up those doors on cue. They had a guy that was doing the not liquid smoke. What is that called? Is it liquid smoke? Frozen, smoky,
We'll just say smoke.
The smoke machine to make it all smoky and everything.
Yeah.
So there was a guy to do that. But there was a guy on either side with a crate filled with pigeons.
Okay.
So director places everybody. We all stand there. I'm standing there, and action. The doors open. The smoke starts coming, and as I start walking forward with my arm like this, your birth was the curse on the whole of humanity. They're throwing these pigeons in the air towards me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got my lines totally right. I got my mark. I stayed in the light. Everything. Fog machine. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you, Russell.
So I'm walking forward. Your birth was the curse, and the pigeons are flying around on the whole of humanity. Oh, what? And the pigeon like flies into my head. We're like, wait, cut. But each time they said cut, it wasn't just that then we would just say cut and then start over. They had to close the doors, blow the smoke, whatever, grab all the pigeons, and also not just grab the pigeons and put them in boxes, but they had to have it fairly even. They couldn't have just like 3 pigeons on this side and 15 on that. So they're
right.
It was a big old effort, and then adjust my costume, and maybe had to adjust the light, whatever. So it was it took another whole like 25 minutes or something. Ready to go again. Take 2. Same thing, opening the doors, the pigeons are flying. I'm walking forward. This time a pigeon lands on my hand like this, and it's going hoo 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 hoo. Wasn't quite
kind of kills the mood a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the effect he was going for. This kept happening, and that's the thing, and then finally, yes, fear talking. Yeah, it did. So the third time,
yep, third time's a charm.
Pigeon flew in, landed on my freaking head. I had the whole nun's habit, and it did. It pooped. So this pigeon poop, dripping down my head. And of course, everyone's laughing, and we had to cut it all. And the director's like freaking out because they have so little time, Yeah. But yeah, so that scene that should have been so simple and short, took so much time.
Yeah.
There were always, every time you use animals, it's a craziness.
Another story I heard was you were also there for the birthing scene of baby Freddy, and Fear the Talking Heads. That's Barb. We got a little sick infatuation with baby Freddy. We just think he's so cute and huggable. Is it true that you actually? This is for Patrick, who's in the chat. You had a cat moving around under the blanket to simulate Freddy coming out.
Yeah, it's a story I like to share with when fans bring their children, their little kids, and it used to surprise me. It doesn't surprise me anymore. But when people show up with little 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, and they say, "Oh, I saw all your movies," and I'm like, "What?" Because I didn't let my kids watch the movie. I mean, feeding Greta her own stomach, like that's just I think that would haunt me forever. But anyway, so one of the stories I like to tell the kids, I said, when I give birth, is that the baby Freddy, that is no creature of God, solids in that, and she's holding the thing, and it's wiggling around, and I say, "Stop it, give it to me," and baby Freddy jumps out of the other nun's hands, and then we see the close up on baby Freddy, that cool, Bill, come on, who made it?
Oh my God,
fans, who made it? Who is the special effects guy that made baby Freddy?
Oh my God, chat help us out, because I'm actually having a brain fart.
And people buy it from him all the time. Miller, Bill Miller.
Sure,
somebody knows. Anyway, the guy who designed baby Freddy. It was amazing, baby Freddy, but it was this robotic one. And so I always say to the kids, "How do you think they got the robot to jump out of? What did they use to make the baby Freddy jump out of the nurse's hands and down to the ground?" And yes, it was a cat. They took an orange tabby cat, covered it with fake blood, wrapped it up in a blanket, and anyone who's had a cat, not Miller Beer. Is that Doomsday? Is that John?
Yeah.
Anyway, but the baby, so of course, if you hold a cat and wrap it up in a blanket, it's going to wiggle and fight. So anyway, David Miller.
I'm looking it up now.
But just I know, hold on one little second there, because we've got,
sure, absolutely.
Speaking of John, I got to show you, as your guest runs away.
That's okay. We're highly professional here. Don't worry about it. David B. Miller.
David E. Miller, yeah.
Yeah, David Miller.
Look at this.
There he is.
My wonderful John Henderson Doomsday Crypt. Awesome dude. Look at this, what he got for me.
That's awesome. I love that.
But you don't remember, John, who you got this from or who made it? Anyway, so this is my baby Freddy. That's why they cast me, because they saw my face and they go, "Oh my God, you look just like him."
Jeez.
Is that anyway? Me after I've had a one glass of wine.
Yeah, one or two glasses of wine. It's the bloodshot eyes. That's what it is.
Anyway, but yeah, so that was a cat. We had the pigeons. What other animals were in 5? Didn't Lisa have some rats at one point or something? Or
maybe when she was walking down the corridor to go save Yvonne, there might have been some rats or something like that. But I don't remember specifically.
Because I remember she had some story about. But yeah, I've worked with animals before, and it's always something. It's always something. But I actually got to work with a monkey. My favorite co-star ever was this cute baby chimpanzee.
Really?
On a show called Danger Bay in Canada. I was a scientist. You know who was on that show? I got to double check if I'm right, because somebody was talking about this actor, Noah.
Hathaway?
What's that?
Hathaway? That's the only. I mean, he was a child actor in the 80s. I know that. He was like a never-ending story.
Oh, it's not Noah. It's not Noah Riley. Is there a Noah? Oh, anyway. I'll figure it out. Oh, speaking of, okay, now we're jumping all over the place, and that's how my brain works. But now that you said Never Ending Story, I got to tell you guys this story about Never Ending Story.
Please do.
Did you know?
There really is no format to this. It's all free form. Whatever pops in your head, go ahead and shoot it out.
Yeah. Oh, wait, which one? Who's Gina?
Gina is, this is Gina here, my chunky Geordie.
Ah, okay.
I've never been able to get my dog to act. He doesn't listen to anyone. Yeah, that's what they say. No kids and no animals when acting. Yep.
100%. But anyway, so in Never Ending Story, they filmed, I don't know how much of it, but certainly parts of it they filmed in Vancouver, Canada, which is where I was living and acting for most of the time until I moved to LA. Anyway, and there's several scenes where they're flying over the city, that dragon or whatever. And what they did was there was a bank in Vancouver. Can't remember what bank, it doesn't matter. But anyway, it had this big wooden dome. And because they wanted it to look like Europe, they wanted it to look, in Europe, it wouldn't have been wood. It would have been, what's the stuff that turns green? What kind of metal?
Oh, God.
You know.
I've been out of high school for 30 years.
Guys listening, old buildings that turns not copper,
not copper,
maybe copper. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyway, but the old buildings in yes, thank you, copper.
Okay, there you go, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you. So it was supposed to look like a copper dome top, and so what they did is they painted it, and they painted the dome green, and it looks really good when the dragon flies past. It looks like he's flying past an old European dome. However, the film company, being a film company trying to save money and time, painted only one half of the dome, the half that the camera sees. And then they left Vancouver, and the city was furious because it looks ridiculous having this building that's half green and half brown. Right. So they hauled that company back, and they had to come and paint the other side so that and to this day now, it looks like Vancouver has this copper top building, but it's actually just paint from the Never Ending Story. Just thought I'd let you know.
That's what I love about like doing these interviews. I just have bullet points. You know what I mean? And you've done hundreds of these. You got the same thing. How was Dream Child? How was this? How was that? And that's why I love when I have a guest who can go on these tangents. You know what I mean? Because who would have thought that I'm talking to Beatrice Boepple, and it's a horror community themed, I guess you'd say, podcast, and we're talking about the Never Ending Story of all things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And here's Eric saying my name correct. Isn't he good?
I did my research. I'm not gonna lie. When I was waiting for you to show up, I was on your Instagram, and I was making sure it wasn't just usual pictures of just pics and stuff or videos of pics. I made sure it was where you're introducing yourself, and I watched that damn thing at least 3 or 4 times just to make sure that when I did the interview, and I didn't want to feel like an idiot, Beatrice, before we go live, how do I say your last name? You know what I mean? So
everyone who knows how to say it, 1, 2, 3, Boepple.
Yeah, there you go. That's the secret word of the day.
Yeah. So you guys, Doomsday Crypt, which is on listening with us, that's John Henderson. For anyone that doesn't know John Henderson, he is. That's right, Barb Boepple.
That's right.
John Henderson is. He's like the king, honestly, you guys. He's the king of horror artists, horror work. He has been, as long as I've known him, he's been finding amazing artists and building them up, getting them known, showing their work. He'll support them by buying their work, shows them, and resells them at conventions. He doesn't usually make all that much off of it, unfortunately, not yet, but he's really given a lot of people their start in the industry and got their names known out there. So support Doomsday Crypt. Couldn't find a better guy than John. He's just a sweetheart. And,
no, Doomsday Crypt, is he the one that you do DK and the B podcast?
That's right.
With? How did that start?
So DK, so John and I were. John's been doing podcasts forever. Again, he, like I said, he supports independent films. He supports artists. That is his art. I mean, his day job is working with special needs people. He's got a community of adult special needs that he is devoted to, and he brings his gang to shows.
Good for him.
You'll see them, all the time. He's just a great guy. And when John finds an artist whose work he thinks is cool, whether it's making sculptures, whether it's painting or whatever, he's like, "Hey, guy, it's great," and he'll show off the person's work and get them out there. And quite a few years ago, I think when I had just barely started to do conventions, so maybe 4 years? I can't remember. I haven't done them that long, but anyway, so John had reached out to me. I didn't really know him. We'd never met. And he said, I'd love to bring you as a vendor. I'd like to bring you down and sponsor you to a show in Florida. And I didn't really know him, and I hadn't done shows, and I was like, I was a little nervous. But we just connected, like his personality. Every time we talked, he's from Missouri, and he's living in Missouri, and he sounds like my brother who lives in Missouri. And we just connected. We became friends. And over the years, he gained my trust, and we ended up doing a show. He brought me down for, was it Phantasm, John? It was something in Florida. And I got to eventually meet his family, and, we've been friends and family ever since. And then he was doing a lot of podcasts, and I can't remember if he started mine or the one with, for a while he was doing with Brett Wagner, DK and the Schwag. But we decided to do one together, and it's DK and the B, DK for Doomsday Crypt. And, we enjoy it. It's all about the fans. When we do a show, we always have a prize we give away. Oh, Spookula, was it? I don't think. Yeah, it was Phantasm.
Yeah, it was Phantasm. Yep.
Yeah. And so, John and I, whenever we do it, we do gifts for the fans. We, try to bring on fun people, and, we just hang out. And I know John would like to do it much more often and more consistently. I'm sure we would build up our following more if we did it consistent, but I'm just going through stuff in my life. I really am. This morning, I taught yoga just before this to my students. I've had a yoga studio for 20 years. And I was telling them, I love you guys and I don't want to quit teaching, but I'm going to take a back step. I'm taking a break. I'm just going through a lot. I'm just going through stuff with family and with my own health and with, and to be committed to something is really hard. To do a one-off here and there, like to jump on your show, I can do. But for me and John or anyone to plan something that we'll do this every week or even every month, I right now can't handle that. So.
Well, that makes sense. And I've always told people that I help get into like the YouTube community or the podcast thing. And you have to do it when you can, because when I always say family life, personal life comes first. Like my friend Melissa, I do a podcast with her every couple of weeks. And right now she's going into a situation where she's constantly moving and she dog sits and this and that. And I told her, I said, that stuff comes first. I said, if we were consistent, sure, we'd have more of a following, but we still have the select people that are always there. So we'll have that core group. And then, you know what? I don't want you to feel like you're forced to do something, because it shows through your performance. It shows that you got something else going on, or you just don't want to be there. Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I've always told people, I said, the personal life comes first. I always say this is a hobby. You know what I mean? Hobbies you want to do. You want to have fun to do it. So I think you're doing the right choice. I really do.
Thanks. Yeah.
You're welcome.
It's important. I mean, actually my whole life has kind of been like that. Like, in terms of even, as an actor, when I was working in LA and stuff, any job that I did, like any day job that I would do to support myself between gigs, I was willing to do anything, whether it was house cleaning, I cooked for people, I worked as a, at a the store was called Vaughn's in LA. It was what do you call it? Anyway, a grocery store.
Department store, grocery
Yeah.
store.
And I waited on tables and stuff. And whatever job I was doing, I told myself I will do the job for as long as I'm able to still have a smile in my heart, but the day I start just hating it, then I will quit, and not everyone has that ability, especially once you have kids and stuff and you have a mortgage or stuff like that. Sometimes you just have to sit with a shit job until you can find, that's just reality. So it's not like we're all just go and only be happy, but it, but the point is that if you can, we need to, this is our life, man. I actually believe in reincarnation, but that's another story. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, this is your only life as you this time, so if your whole life is misery, that's just, you got to do something. You got to change it. I mean,
you got to fix it.
You got to fix it. We've all, every single one of us goes through shitty times for sure, and there's times you just can't control horrible things happening. But as a rule, try to make things happen. Like my dear son, hopefully he's not listening. I hear somebody in the kitchen, but I have a kid who's, he's 26 and he's a musician and he's really talented and he's working on his music and he's so dedicated. Every night he works with he's got two different DJ duos. One is dubstep and one is house music. And he's totally focused on that every night. But to pay his rent and whatever, he has a day job and he's moved back home for a little while because rent was so harsh out there. And I hear him in the morning. He gets up at 6 in the morning and I hear him going, and I'm thinking, you're only 26 and you're already like dreading going to work. Like, that's
just wait, buddy.
Like in your 40s and 50s and stuff. Yeah, it's expected, but anyway. It is definitely, exactly. I'm trying to read the comments here. But
I'll pop it up. Like Barb herself, she says it's easy to get overwhelmed with too many things going on at once. The key is knowing when to pull back, or it can be paralyzing. And it's also in how you look at it. Like I've learned myself, through the things that I've gone through, at least the last 20 years. Like you're dealt this hand. It's how you go forward, in my opinion. I mean, sometimes you have those moments where you just lights off. You're dreading everything, but that's a day. The next day is you got to get up. You got to pull up the bootstraps, and you just got to force yourself. And your life is what you make it. At least that's how I've learned. Life is tough for everybody out there. It's just you don't have to deal with all the doom and gloom. It's just I believe things. I'm sure, at least I'm starting to believe things happen for a reason.
They do.
And it's that's how you got to look into it. You know what I mean? Just pull back the curtain. We were kind of forced to move in one situation, and something happened where, no, we were forced to move. Our in-laws ended up buying the house that we moved into a while ago, but that wouldn't have happened if they moved out of state. The reason why they couldn't move out of state is because they were trying to sell their house and it was in like a flooding zone. So that, to me, that was like, that happened so we could stay in this house and stuff like that. So again, it's just all into interpretation. That's how I'm looking at it. One thing I was interested in, and because you have a very interesting IMDb. Before you did Elm Street, you were in Stakeout, which I just watched today for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's actually it's one of those that is always those movies you have on your list and you never know when to I'm going to sit down and watch this. And it was a very funny movie. I really enjoyed it. It's a fun action comedy. And I was wondering, because you're only in a couple scenes, but you do share a scene with Emilio Estevez. And you're starting out, at this age, you're starting out with your acting, in Hollywood. Was there any intimidation or pressure because he was now officially a Brat Packer? You also had Richard Dreyfuss, Aidan Quinn, isn't it? It's got a fantastic cast. Was there any pressure having to actually act with someone who is on the rise like Emilio, and you're just kind of a fresh face?
Yeah. Interestingly enough,
you played his wife.
I played his wife. And I think a lot of people have heard the story anyway, but when I played Emilio's wife, well, first of all, that was the role that where I really learned about connecting with the director. It was
Okay.
actually my boyfriend at the time, a beautiful actor named Keith, who unfortunately, Keith Provost, Canadian actor who passed away. He was hit by a car while he
Oh.
was riding his bicycle, and
Mhm.
he even had a helmet, but he got flipped over. And anyway, very tragic story. But he was the one that had told me, he was the one that gave me a hint, because I was saying, I need to find out something about John Badham, the
Mhm.
director, who directed lots and lots of war games and so many
Oh, yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But I wanted something to connect with him. And my boyfriend at the time was a horror fan too. So he used to read, come on, what's the big horror magazine?
Fangoria.
Fangoria, thank you. And it was in Fangoria. He goes, John Badham. And he pulls out his catalog of magazines and he whips to this one page. And there was an interview of John Badham in Fangoria. And it was talking about John Badham had directed, you guys, now that there's the internet, it's a lot easier to look up.
Mhm.
Somebody can look it up while I'm talking. I don't know if I have the facts right, but it was something to the effect of he had directed some sort of either vampire or monster, some sort of
Yes,
monster.
he directed a Dracula movie, and I'm trying to
Wasn't
think.
it based on some sort of Shakespearean story, like either Macbeth or something, or Hamlet, or I don't. In any case, there was some very interesting story, and whatever it was at the time, I remember reading it, and so I brought that up in the audition. I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, by the way, when you directed blah 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 blah, and I asked him some question. He was really taken aback because not many people knew about it at the time.
Mhm.
And that got us talking. So he had a call back. He brought me back. And originally I was going to be playing a cop. I don't know which cop, but I was originally going to be playing a cop. That's what I had auditioned for.
Mhm.
And then I get a phone call saying, no, they want you as the wife, Emilio Estevez's wife. I'm like, what? Anyway, and the one prerequisite, you had to be under 5'5" to play his wife. But I wasn't the only under 5'5" person. So it wasn't like Elm Street. They weren't like,
Yeah.
okay, you've got the part because you're under 5'5". Anyway, so I got to act with him. I wasn't nervous because he was a big name. I mean, he was
Mhm.
cute. What I was nervous was I thought I had bad breath because we had to lie in bed, right? So
Right.
if anyone's seen Stakeout, so Emilio's character, and those who don't know, Emilio Estevez, shame on you. He's
Yes.
Martin Sheen's son. He's Charlie Sheen's more intelligent, sweet brother. Anyway, because I know Charlie Sheen quite well too. But anyway,
Mhm.
so Emilio, so he's in bed. He gets a phone call from Richard Dreyfuss, and I walk into the room, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the phone. And he's like, no, come here. So I get into bed with him, and I'm sort of nuzzling while he finishes his conversation with Richard Dreyfuss, and then we kind of kiss and cuddle. And so I get into bed with him, and he starts, like, the actor, Emilio Estevez has the covers, and he keeps going like this.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh shit. And I thought I had bad breath. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my God. So then I start going like that, I'm like,
Yeah.
I smell my own breath.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, terrified. Like, oh my God, do I have stinky breath? What am I going to do? But then whoever's breath was good or bad went out the window, because as some people have heard me tell the story, the director, after we were kissing and everything, because Richard Dreyfuss ad-libbed this line. He says, kiss Carol for me. My character's name is Carol. So Emilio kisses me. And then Richard Dreyfuss is ad-libbed and he goes, no, lower. Such a Richard Dreyfuss thing. So then he hangs up. And so we're sitting there and I say, oh, how are you doing, honey? And he goes, I'm tired. And I say, tired? And he goes, not that tired. And we start to kiss. Well,
Yeah.
What does that mean if a husband and a wife are in bed and they're not that tired?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're kissing and we figure it's going to say cut.
Mhm.
But the director didn't say cut.
Cut.
And he didn't say cut. And he didn't say cut. And how many times can I keep kissing this guy on the cheek?
Mhm.
Yes, he is a dirty
Pretty
bird.
bird.
Anyway, so like I'm sitting there kissing, and then I'm thinking, God. So I take my hand and I kind of bring it under the covers, like I'm, gosh, I don't know, looking for the phone.
Yeah.
No, but anyway, and we're trying to make it realistic. Like, we don't want to only just keep kissing on the cheek, but it's just getting like embarrassing because the director's not. And back in the day, we didn't have anything that they call now the intimacy coordinator on film sets. Now they have them, and they're very specific. I guess I've never gotten to have one, but they say, supposedly they'll say, okay, so you're in bed, you're kissing. Can he put his hand there? Are you okay with that? Yes. Can he put his hand here? How far can he, What are you comfortable with? And they
Yeah,
work it all out.
what you can and can't do with the actor or actress.
Yeah, so that you
Okay.
know your boundaries and you know how far to go in a love scene. Well, we didn't have any of that, and we're like just, you know, and so we're just so embarrassed, and it's just going on and on and on. It probably wasn't that long, but it felt like hours, you know, that they're just not saying cut. And then suddenly, instead of cut, we hear threesome, and Richard Dreyfuss came running in front of the camera and jumped in bed and sandwiched me between him and Emilio Estevez. So, and Richard Dreyfuss, folks, had just won the Oscar for Goodbye Girl, I think it was. Whatever. He's a big guy, Jaws, whatever. He was huge.
Yeah.
And so I'm like sandwiched between the two of them, and I'm like, oh my God. And imagine if I had bad breath then. And then on top of it, John Badham, the director, said, don't leave me out. And he came running in too. I would give anything. I'd give my right breast. I don't know. Anyway, no, I have no idea why I said that. But anyway, I'd give, you know, whatever to find that footage. I wish somebody had it. Like, I wish they did bloopers and kept it, because it would have been so funny. But, you know, back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't sit there and take photos and, you know.
Well, that takes care of my next question. I was going to say, even though you didn't share any scenes with him, did you have any fun Richard Dreyfuss stories? Well, there you go.
We did. And yeah, no, that was a great Richard Dreyfuss story. Plus, he was awesome because I have another great Bee's Breath autograph.
Autographs coming.
Stop. Oh my goodness. All right, you guys. No, but Richard Dreyfuss, yes. So at the time when I was in Vancouver, I had a company I called ProTrack, Professional Training for Actors. Yeah, you know what? Afterwards, Emilio took me out for dinner, and he was worried about his breath.
His own breath, yeah.
Yeah, he thought he had bad breath. He actually came and saw me in a play, because I was in a play at the time. And when we went to this Japanese restaurant in Vancouver, the funny thing is I speak Japanese. And so I was speaking to the waitress, and they were so excited because I could speak Japanese. So they're all like, and it was one of these restaurants that had the famous people's autographs on the wall.
Okay.
So they, in Japanese, said, can we have your autograph? Can you have? And I'm sitting there with freaking Emilio Estevez, you know. I'm such a nobody compared to him. And I was like so embarrassed. So in Japanese, I'm like, no. He's the actor. He's the big movie star. Ask him. And they said, no, we want yours. And I said, no, ask him. So they finally said, okay, well, we'll ask him, but you have to sign on the same thing. I'd love to go back. Breath and autograph Ziplocs for sale. Gross. Ew.
Hey, man, some of the stuff you can find on eBay and Etsy, you know, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, that's gross. If somebody's in, that would be a weird.
You could just sell cans of bee's breath. You know what I mean? Online, people would buy it. Not gonna lie.
That's so gross. But anyway, yes, I would actually like to go back to that restaurant in Vancouver. It's a Japanese restaurant, but mind you, this is like 40 years. I don't know, whatever, long time ago. But I wonder if it's still up there. If the restaurant's there, it's probably still up there. But I signed it together with him, which is so funny. That was Emilio Estevez. But Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah. So I had this company called ProTrack, Professional Training for Actors, and where we would get famous people in to give workshops to local actors. So I asked Richard Dreyfuss if he would do it, and he said absolutely. And I said, we don't really have much money or anything. He goes, oh, forget the money. And so then before we were going to host him one Saturday, at a theater, and people all bought tickets and whatnot. And I wanted to make sure as the host that I knew a lot about him. So I went to the grocery store, which is back then, that's where you got movies, and we had these racks with all these, what were they called?
VHS tapes.
Thank you. VHS tapes, in those circular things. And I was going through, picking out Richard Dreyfuss movies. And while I was doing that, out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody walking down on the street, and I saw that same person circle back. I just happened to notice that. I was there with my boyfriend, who is a real fanboy, the same guy that gave me the Fangoria magazine with the director. And we're sitting there looking for Richard Dreyfuss movies. Well, suddenly somebody comes and gives me a bear hug and then covers my eyes and says, guess who? And I turn around and it's freaking Richard Dreyfuss. And I'm like, but my boyfriend, awesome. Like, his jaw was like down to the floor. Like,
can you hug me like that? Yeah, I bet.
And I was thinking to myself, like, no offense, but like, how does he remember me? I mean, we've talked on set, but am I that memorable? Like, I know who he is, but I didn't think he'd remember me, but he did.
Well, when you have a foursome with Emilio Estevez and John Badham, it's kind of hard to forget.
I guess you do. And supposedly back then I was kind of pretty, so whatever. Anyway, but he Wasn't my figure amazing? Like, when I look back on it, it's like, it's so funny when I look at, because there's a scene in the kitchen in Stakeout where I'm making spaghetti or whatever.
Yep.
And like my arms, like there's no freaking fat on anywhere on there. And I remember as a actor back then being so obsessed with the fact that, you guys, when you wear, you men, no, women know, when you wear a bra, like there's this little armpit, this fat that's just almost impossible to avoid. I was so like nervous about that. Oh my God. Cause I was in this little tank top or something. And I remember just being so nervous about that stupid piece of fat, like going, oh, I look so gross. And now like, as this old lady, I'm looking at it going, what the hell was I thinking? Like, why was I so worried? I had this great body, but I didn't feel it at the time. Anyway.
We're our own worst critics. I trust me. I felt the same way growing up. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm comfortable. I'm good.
So we, digress. But anyway, so Richard Dreyfuss, so he gives me this hug and then he goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking for movies. And he goes, what kind of movies? And I said, yours, to be honest. And he goes, oh, they're the best kind. And I said, do you watch your own movies? And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, sometimes. He goes, but it's like, I'm like pressing the button, because we didn't have remotes back then. He goes like, I'm pressing the fast forward button going, bullshit, me. Bullshit, me. And that's the truth. Most actors do that. I must confess. We do kind of zoom through everything and just look at our parts, but that's just the way it goes. He was awesome. He was so down to earth.
He seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. He was really, really great.
No, that's really cool. I love to hear these positive stories of the actors, behind the scenes, and just again, he's just walking down the street. You know what I mean? He's not at a convention where sometimes, people have to play nice, and stuff like that. I love that. Speaking of conventions, what's it like now going to this convention? Because like you said, you weren't a fan of horror at the time. Amanda Krueger at the time, I think, was, you looked at it as just a job. It is what it is. What's it like now going to these conventions and seeing all the love that your character gets and the interaction? Because I'm not going to lie, when I do these interviews, these live stream interviews, I get 2-3 people. I've had like 8 now for you because they love the character. They love your personality. What's it like seeing all the love from this role, this character you played, 35 plus years ago? Does it kind of like bring a smile to your face and that you'd never expected? Because what I love about you is lots of times you'll show up in the nun's habit, wearing the Freddy glove. You're this fun-loving person, and you can tell. And like a lot of times, you just people watch on your Instagram. Yeah. How does that feel? Feeling all the love and appreciation from these horror fans, even after all these years, from just some job you just happen to take?
Yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's phenomenal. As I said, I originally hadn't even wanted the role, and then after doing it, it actually, for those of you who don't know the story, I had been acting for a good 15 years or so up to that point, starring in films in Canada and having all these nice lead roles, even working with Katharine Hepburn, who to me is like the last of the real Hollywood legends, whatever. Amazing things. Sidney Poitier, things like that. Like I really had a pretty stellar career. And then I, did Nightmare on Elm Street. And I will tell you, like to this day, no member of my family's even watched it, which is very kind of sad, but whatever. But it wasn't something that I really had prized or thought about. And then having done Elm Street, even though I had great fun doing it, I mean, I had no regrets at the time doing it. But it was a job, it was fun. It was kind of interesting. But the sad thing was, after doing it in Hollywood, all I got was horror film offers, nothing else. And it's like, that was the first horror film I had done. I'd done all these other things. And suddenly now that's all I'm going to get. Midnight Matinee was kind of horror, but I guess it was more of a tongue in cheek, ode to horror films or something, but not really a horror film. So anyway, and they weren't good ones. I mean, if I was offered something very interesting, I love suspense. I love the trilogies of horror. I love, or trilogies of horror, trilogy of terror
with Karen Black.
Yeah. That kind of stuff, like that I grew up on. I absolutely love that stuff, but I like psychological thriller. I don't like gore. I will be very honest. I don't like gore. It's not something, so for me, without getting into trouble, there's certain very successful film franchises nowadays that I won't watch. I mean, I
Right.
love the people in them; they're friends of mine, but I
Hmm.
can't watch it. That's not my
Yeah,
thing.
you can't do it. Yeah,
I
there's
can't do
nothing
it.
wrong with
So
that.
I can act in them because
You're not
but
watching it. Yeah.
I won't watch them anyway. But yeah, so I had, like, as you said, yeah, it was something I kind of did, and then I moved on, and I actually left the industry. Shark movies. God, I was so terrified with anyway, sharks, Jaws. I couldn't go back into the water. But anyway, um, so when I started to do conventions and started to meet the fans, in the beginning, I didn't understand it. I just didn't get it. Like, what do
Hmm.
you mean? Like, you might have enjoyed it, but what do you mean it made such a big impact on you?
Hmm.
I couldn't understand why would a horror film. And I think that was because for me, we all have different ways of coping. And I had a lot of trauma and tragedy in my childhood.
Okay.
But what I did when I was in trauma, let's
Hmm.
say, is I would go the other way. I would go to the little happy house. Well, you
Hmm.
remember in not Adam's Family. Yeah, is it with Wednesday or whatever, that creepy little happy house. They have to
Yeah.
sit and watch the happy movies. But for me, that's what I would do. I would watch the happy little movies because it
Hmm.
just, even though they didn't seem real in any way, it just gave me something to think about. That
It's escapism.
it was escapism. But I've
Hmm.
learned that a lot of people that went through trauma went the other way, went deeper into it by going through watching horror films, knowing that it's fake, for
Hmm.
one thing. So they could deal, process stuff, I guess, some horrifying stuff, but in a safe context. And then all the other psychological aspects of being able to, kill or destroy your tormentors, or, people
Hmm.
that bullied you, or being the final girl that survives the bullies. And,
Right.
so there's a lot of ways that horror films, really help people through dark times that I did
Hmm.
not understand until I really started interacting with fans. And some of the letters and conversations I've had with people, it's brought me to tears. I'm
Yeah.
so honored, that I could be a part of something that meant so much to people. And,
Hmm.
but it took me a long time to really believe it. Like, at first I
Yeah.
thought people were just saying it
Yeah.
because horror wasn't for me something. It didn't have that function for me, but I'm seeing that, yes, it does for other people. And I
Hmm.
understand now why.
Yeah.
And so anytime, like, whether it's being a yoga teacher and seeing how that's changed people's lives, or making a nice meal that really brings people together and makes them happy, or making a film that, even if it's horror, if
Hmm.
it was a part of their lives, even if it just made them laugh and scream for a little bit, and that just took them out of
Yeah.
something horrible happening at home. But I've even had reactions that I never would have even guessed, like, because Amanda Krueger, was a victim of rape. And
Hmm.
I've had numerous rape victim fans come to me and say
Yeah.
that that really helped them through, to see that she survived it and she was still a strong, powerful
Hmm.
character. Like, wow.
That's
You
got
know,
to hit. That's got to really hit you with something, an act that bad, and they say something that a character you portrayed helped as much as it could get them through that, or at
yeah,
least just maybe at least decompress for 90 minutes or something like that.
yeah. I mean, it's not a secret. I think people who've listened to my interviews know I'm a victim of rape as well,
Hmm.
not just in the movies.
Hmm.
And but it didn't, playing Amanda, I don't think for me had that, to me, I didn't really equate the two, because it was like, 100 maniacs in an insane
Right.
asylum. Like, it was, besides which, I mean, even though as an actor, we 100% draw on our own experiences to bring reality to our
Right.
characters, we are playing somebody else. I mean, that's
Hmm.
the whole escape part for actors, that it's a release for us because we get to escape who we really are,
Yeah.
you know. And so I didn't have that same sort of, oh, Amanda survived, and, it was different for me. But when I got that letter from a particular fan, and,
Hmm.
uh, oh yeah, true, the character of Amanda is one of strength and
Strength of
perseverance,
perseverance. Yep.
and she is, and she also has that, especially writing the book really got me to explore it even deeper, of the struggle of a mom, of being the mother of something so evil, and she's not an evil person. She's not Pamela Voorhees, she's the complete
Right.
opposite. She doesn't want her kid killing, and as a nun and as a lady of the cloth, it's very horrifying for her to realize what her son's doing. But, it, yeah.
That's really cool. You just mentioned it. I was going to bring it up. I have my copy of your book, Krueger Curse, and what I love is when we order it through your website, you'll personalize it. I made sure to do my favorite line. Look for me in the tower. You know, that's my favorite line that you do in the movie, and it's I really enjoyed it. Not gonna lie, I'm not just kissing your butt because you're here. I really enjoyed it because I didn't know what to expect, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't realize how dark it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that because I appreciated you gave her this backstory and all the stuff she went through. I'm not going to spoil it. You know, get your copy. You know what I mean? She went through a lot of tragedy pre becoming a nun. You know what I mean? And there's some dark stuff there. And what I liked about it is she was always this good person. She was always, you know, not to spoil it too much. She's still in Freddy's life after he's born. She takes care of him as much as she can. And that's what I loved about her. She wasn't just a tragic character. She was a loving character. She was a strong character. And no matter what, she always cared about him. Even when there is a small scene where she meets him after his wife goes missing. And it's a really strong scene. I liked how she was just this loving character. And I also love some of the artwork. Like one of my favorite paintings is right there. You know, that's Amanda. Freddy's been taken away, but you see Freddy in the moon.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff like
And also
that.
the tree. No, look at the tree too, right? It looks like his glove. That artist.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. He Joe St. Pierre, you know, he does the art for Marvel magazine, Marvel Comics, and Marvel and what's the other one? DC Comics. Yeah. You know, he's a fantastic artist. I was really grateful to get there's 3 artists in there, you know, to get their work in there, which made it extra special. But basically the book for me is, first of all, my love song to the Nightmare on Elm Street fans. That's number 1. Number 2 is my love letter to Amanda and what she went through. And you know, and it incorporates most of the work that I did as an actor in preparing to play her, like, you know, because that had always been a big question of mine. How did Freddy know who she was? If she gave him up for adoption, which is all I was given, the only information I knew about her was that she's a nun who got raped, had Freddy, and gave him up for adoption. So, but he clearly knows who she is, you know, that whole thing, you know, that she's scared of her.
Yeah.
But he knows who she is. So how did he know who she was if they never were together? So I explored that, you know, and it made so much sense that she would have had some involvement because nuns were the ones that ran orphanages. I mean, that's just the way it was back then. So you know, totally made sense. Is there an audiobook? So you know what? I've actually been setting up. I don't know if we can see in that corner. No, we can't see. Anyway, I'm setting up an audio recording studio. I just did a film. I just did narration on a film called Mr. Green, which will be coming out. I'm not sure, but I will let people know when I find out more about it. But I just was hired to be the narrator for that. So I started working on my recording studio. And many people have asked for the audiobook version. I just don't know how that all works, but I'm going to look into it. I mean, I know how to record it, but I don't know how to sell an audio thing.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It's a quick read, which is you know, thankful nowadays. You know, because you know we're all going here and there, and I just want to say I really enjoyed it. Do you plan on writing any more fiction books?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
There's been a lot more conversation in my mind. Well, now that I played Pamela Voorhees, that painting up there in that corner, which I think is so interesting because I don't know if you guys can see it, but Pam Voorhees with Jason, and Pam's going like kill, you know, and Jason's kind of like a little nervous, baby Jason, and then Amanda's holding Freddy back, who's clawed at Jason. You know, they're 2 completely different mothers, and having played them both, their relationship with their kids and everything is just completely diametrically opposite, as are Jason and Freddy. So there's been some stuff coming through a lot about a conversation between these 2 women. I don't know how that would play out. And also a possibility of carrying through with Amanda, what it was like for her, because in this book, she's alive. and it
Mhm.
takes well, she's narrating it back from the dead,
Yeah.
but what was that like? When she's now dead,
Mhm.
and she first appears, we see her appear, in Elm Street 3, when she appears to that doctor. What was that like for her to just suddenly be able to like appear in human, like appear as a human? What was that experience for her? And then again, when she appears later, and what is going on for these people that are alive in the death other side? Like what is her relationship with Freddy when they're
Mhm.
not in physical form? Like there's just a
Mhm.
lot to explore there. That's kind of interesting. Um, and it could certainly be explored through the different um, stories of Elm Street. Where was Amanda when, in Elm Street 2, with Mark's character, like what's going
Mhm.
on and what's she thinking and stuff like that. So there's more, there's other ideas to
Okay.
do with Amanda and Elm Street, and then plus just lots of other stories too. I mean, my own personal story, I can't really write it until my mom's no longer
Mhm.
around, but
Mhm.
you know, anyhow.
No, like I said, again, I really like it. I will, once we're done here, I will link your website
Oh, thank
so
you.
people can get the book. And like I said, it's a quick read. It's very powerful in some parts. It's very dark, so be prepared. But it again, it made me appreciate the character more off of film, if that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, because she does go through some shit, and she's one of those, she doesn't give up no matter what happened to her through childhood, through adulthood, through having her baby taken away, and then through reading what happened to Freddie, his wife Loretta, and that's what I like. You're really good with getting the names correct and this and that. I think you did a really really good job. So it is one of those purchases that I'm glad I made, and I didn't just do it. I'm not gonna lie, I did it because we were gonna do the interview, but I'm glad it's one of those. Even if this interview never happened, I'm glad I have a copy because it is a really good story.
Thank you. I appreciate. As far as getting the names right, I just want to say one thing, you guys, before we go is I did. I don't know really the one difficulty I had was in the family. Here's our little family tree of the Krueger
Mm-hmm.
family. His daughter Maggie. Some places had it as Burnham, and some places have it as Maggie Burroughs.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I mean, I would go. For me, it's obviously what's in the film,
Mm-hmm.
and so I really have to go back because I have a feeling that might have been wrong. I think that it was Burroughs is the
Mm-hmm.
one that's in the film. I think it was on a couple fan sites that called her Burnham. Whatever. That's the only thing as far as accuracy. But otherwise, I got the dates all correct because the films there's a little bit of an discrepancy, and I
Yeah.
tried to make it work. The timeline actually worked to how old she would have been, how old he would have been. But
Yeah. I won't keep it too much longer. I only have a couple more things to talk about, and I'll let you go. Let's get out of horror for a second. And one thing that you like to promote is this short called The Final Walk.
yeah.
And I'm not gonna. I watched the trailer. It seems like it's gonna be a tough one to watch. Because it's all about the remembrance of a friend and this and that. And this, I believe, was the first thing you've written and co-produced. Is that ever going to get a wide release, or where can we see it? I know there are showings and screenings happening pretty soon, I believe, right?
Yeah, the final one we've shown it now. I think at about like my film partner Wendell Laurent has been entering it in tons of film festivals, and our last one, as far as I know, is this next in not today, but the next Saturday is
Mm-hmm.
going to be our final one in Manhattan, and we were nominated there for best. Let's see, I got it
I
right there.
think best
Best thriller,
actors.
best
Yep.
director. I got best actress, and both my co-stars got best actor. So, uh, um, these are our nominations. So, a lot of the film festivals we got nominations. We didn't necessarily win. We did win on some of them, but the nominations is great. It's like the Oscars. You get nominated, at least
Mm-hmm.
it means they consider
You
you.
get that. You get that acknowledgement. Again,
Yeah.
it's good to get that acknowledgement.
But
Um.
I have a lot of other films
Mm-hmm.
that I would like to write, both short and long. The
Mm-hmm.
problem with this one being released is we have to find a venue where they take short films.
Mm-hmm.
So if Netflix or somebody will take a short film, then we would like to try to sell it there.
Okay. Now I don't know how much you can say about this, but you have promoted it on Instagram. The reason why I'm throwing this out there is because next weekend I'm interviewing Lauren Marie Taylor. You recently worked on a film called Loose Ends, a fan film with her and Catherine Mary Stewart and Jill Whitlow. How you go from one franchise to another? Is there anything you could tell us about when that's coming out or your role? I mean, I know a lot of it before anything's official. A lot of it's hush hush or something like that.
Yeah, no, that one. So that Scott Tepperman, who no, sorry, wrong one, wrong director. Sorry.
It's okay.
No, because Scott did another one. I'm part of. Okay, brain think. Come on, pull it together.
Take a breath.
It's directed by. Do you know? Because you better know because she's going to be coming on.
Oh yeah, I better know.
Yeah, Scott Tepperman. Yeah, that's Cruel Summer. This Cruel Summer franchise, which I was in Cruel Summer 3 and 4. That was amazing, and that is, I believe, it's out on DVD. But the one that you are talking of, which is Loose
Ends. What is it? Loose Ends, Victim No More, Part 2 is the name of is the title of it.
Right, and that is an anthology. He's put together a number of interesting stories, all tied into Friday the 13th lore. And in the section that I'm in, what can I tell you? That I play a crazy mother. I play a crazy mother, and it's and it is again tied into the original Friday the 13th, but some of the characters in that, it has to do with that, and that will be released, I think, in 26.
Okay.
And I certainly will be posting more about it when that time comes. There's been a bunch of stuff. Oh, you saw Blood and Breakfast?
Blood and Breakfast. I just added that to my Tubi queue this morning, right before we entered.
Fun. Yeah, I got to play it. It's this past year was so much fun. I did like I think 12 or 13 films.
I noticed that, like, you took your break, and then once you always say, you were dealing with empty nest syndrome, so you got back out in there. My God, you're just you're doing film after film after film. Did it take a while to get back into, no pun intended with being a nun, the habit of being an actress?
Well, it's very, very different. So my dear friend John Henderson, who's still on here, Doomsday Crypt, he told me that. He said, if you let people know that you're available for indie films, you're going to get work nonstop. And the truth of the matter is, low budget independent films need to crowdfund. So it helps them to have a name that they can say, oh, so-and-so was in our film. And I know that. So sometimes they just give you a real short cameo just so that they can say you're in the film. And then other ones get you in and actually give you really nice, juicy roles. So I've had a bit of both. But it's great for me because, as you said, I've been out of the business for so long that, not to say that I'm practicing on you guys, but I am, on these low budget films, it's getting my chops back up to speed and, making sure that I can still learn lines, because I get worried about my memory, but it seems to be when I'm in actor mode, it hasn't been an issue. And just remembering to be smooth with the camera and all that stuff, because I've done a lot of theater. Well, not a lot, but I've done some theater in between, and theater's just a lot bigger acting. You need to pull it in for the screen. So I've been grateful for that. And it's also helping me to build up my resume, my reel, should I decide I want to do something other than low budget horror films. But it's been great fun. And I love the spirit of independent filmmaking, but it's been a huge learning curve because I kind of started off up here, like I said, working with Emilio Estevez and Sidney Poitier, on big budget films that, I have a trailer and I have somebody that picks me up with my coffee and my makeup and my wardrobe, everything's handled. I just show up and just be an actor. These films, no, you drive yourself there. You have to feed yourself pretty much. You maybe do your own makeup, wear your own clothes, and film an entire film, entire 5 pages of dialogue in 1 hour. I mean, it's a lot harder work, a lot less. I'm not going to say a lot less rewarding. It's rewarding in a different way, but it's grueling work, and you're working a lot of times with brand new actors, not necessarily all that experienced crew. Sometimes very experienced crew, but so it's been a lot of it's been a learning curve for me. And it's certainly, do I prefer getting paid big budget film rates and getting residuals and getting my own trailer and getting picked up? Yeah, I do.
Sure.
For
Yeah.
sure. That's a lot nicer. And I'll tell you, you independent filmmakers out there, my biggest thing, I love when, the thing I miss the most is I would have my makeup done for me and my wardrobe done for me. And I'm not a shopper. I don't like buying clothes. And I don't do my own makeup. So I loved being able to just show up and have myself made beautiful.
Hmm.
I kind of miss that. But
Yeah.
anyway, no, but it's been great. And I've met such passionate people, filmmakers, but there's also, I'm not crazy about the stupid drama between some of these people. That
Yeah.
you guys got to stop, watch that.
Yeah.
But this year coming up, Wherein Lies Continue is a film by Heidi Mickak Films. And it's going to be a web, I believe, series. Very
Okay.
interesting concept about this young girl who realizes that she can see dead people, but she sort of sees crimes before they happen. And
Okay.
I play her aunt that might have the same ability. It's a project I'm looking forward to. And the director's name is Heidi Mickak. That's scheduled to be filming next year if they can raise the money.
Hmm.
I had just signed on to Happy Gilmore,
I saw that.
Deadsville Productions, and the director Ronan James. He's the guy that's going to be doing Amityville Barbie, which I'm cast in, and
Oh, wow.
that's something I'm really looking forward to. Amityville Barbie, and it's a film. The role he has for me is something I'm really looking forward to. And I'll be honest, and Ronan, if you're listening, Happy Gilmore, it gave me pause because, as I mentioned, I'm not a gore person,
Right.
and this is very in the Terrifier
Yeah.
genre. It's just a lot of killing, and
Hmm.
I'm not so sure I'm thrilled with this whole. He's not the only one. Everyone's doing it. Taking these happy little characters, Winnie the Pooh, and all that stuff, and making them all evil.
Hmm.
And so it's going to be a evil
Easter Bunny, I think.
funny, yeah. And then I'm also cast in a horror anthology called Vicious Valentines. So we're gonna, have murders during Valentine. But I'm actually looking forward to that with Matt Burns. Fantascope is the company, and there's a couple other 80s film stars that I'm going to be working with, and I'm really looking forward to working with. So I'm looking forward to that. And then also, what is this? Oh, Horror Hound Bites. That's been a project. I actually filmed most of my scenes. I'm playing Madame Midnight, who is this character all dressed sort of gothic and dark with a long wig and everything. And I read a spooky story each episode.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm looking forward to that coming up. And for next year, I really, again, I told my agent, Peter Valderrama, that, I've been holding back on doing conventions and stuff like that. I did agree to one Maine Paranormal Horror Con in Maine. And that's in September of next year. And that's out in Maine. And a number of people had told me, you got to do that show, and they reached out to me. So, but other than that, I don't really have anything else booked or planned right now. For me, yeah, as I said, my main focus is my family, number one, my health, number two, just sort of getting my life sort of squared away.
Yeah. And
then from there, I want to, if anybody ever listening is into, has films that aren't necessarily horror, pick me.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be stuck in one genre. What the hell is that
genre
word? Thank you.
Close enough.
I was thinking horror and genre together, so it came out as genre. But anyway, yes, I don't want the genre. I want to do, before I die, I want to do at least one film that I just love, like kind of, I have my bucket list of films that I love, my 10 favorite or whatever, that just moved me deeply. And I would love to be in a film like that. Yeah. Although I guess Elm Street is for some people, that it moved them. So I am very, very grateful for that. That's awesome. I'm always grateful to all the fans.
Yeah, we are. Well, again, like I said, we're grateful to you. The interaction, like I said, give me your time to do this interview. The last two questions are questions I ask all my guests. You have the whole weekend to yourself, house to yourself, no kids, no husband, no nothing. What was Beatrice Boepple, say it right? What does she do to just relax for 48 hours? No stress, no nothing, no knock on wood. What's your go-to thing to do just to relax for a weekend?
So on my own, so I would get nice candles lit all over the house with all these nice yummy smells. I would have a bubbly bath with wonderful bath salts that my loving husband makes for me every year. These beautiful bath salts with different aromas and stuff. If it's winter, I'd have the fireplace going. If not, I won't, obviously. Relax in the tub, maybe do a little, body feeling good, rolling and stretching in the yoga studio. And then either trashy magazines or a good book if I'm reading one, or my favorite, probably not necessarily trashy, but girly movies that because I have a husband and sons. And so there's all the girly movies I never get to watch. I think I saw somewhere up there, somebody said something about a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, Patrick asked if you like Hallmark movies. If that's something you would do.
And that's something I could never, my family wouldn't watch with me. So especially if it's around Christmas time, get my favorite snacks and cuddle either in bed or on a couch, and bundle up and watch like a bunch of girly movies that, with a big box of tissue and snacks. What is this?
Awesome.
What work is the experience? I'm working on the big props to Peter Valderrama. John's got something going, but yeah, that would be my thing. Good snacks, good movies or good reads, and relaxing, chilling at home. It would have been also a really good glass of wine, but now that I'm in my 60s, every time I have a glass of wine, my face gets bloody red and hot, and I start sweating and sweating. So very, very sad. I can't drink anymore.
Yeah,
I can drink a little bit of vodka or something, but even then I get hot. Not as bad as with red wine. Yeah. So that's sadly gone.
You're like my wife when she has her wine cooler. She's one and done. She gets the flashes and stuff like that.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Favorite holiday movie? He said, oh my God. Well, I've always loved It's a Wonderful Life. Just a classic. And then as far as also the cartoon Disney, I mean not the Disney, I always watched Frosty and Rudolph and Mr. Snow. What's the Snow and Mr.
Snow? Santa Claus is coming to town. I'm the Snow Miser. Yeah.
The Snow Miser. I love watching all those classics, and also that beautiful Flying Through the Air. The snowman. The snowman. It's called
Frosty the Snowman. Yeah. Oh, the snowman. Yeah, I remember that one. I know what you're talking about.
I'm flying through the air. Na, na. That music is so pretty. Yeah. I love that one too.
Last question I always ask everybody is: there are no limits. What would Beatrice's final meal be? Now, I've had people do the whole full course meal. Appetizer, alcohol is involved. At this time, you can drink whatever you want, and you don't get flushed. My friend Melissa, who I told you about, she was happy with Kraft mac and cheese and strawberry ice cream.
Did he freeze for you guys? You froze for a minute there.
Oh, all right. Did you hear what I said? Because now I hear. Okay.
No.
What would Beatrice's final meal be? No limits. I've had somebody that says, the whole full course appetizer, alcohol's involved. You don't get flushed with this specific meal. Or I've had my friend Melissa, she said she'd be happy with Kraft mac and cheese and strawberry ice cream. What would Beatrice's no limits final comfort meal be?
Okay. If there was no limits.
No limits.
I would have a nice, really amazing red wine, like a rich Merlot, not really sweet, but on the with just like a hint of fruitiness and rich body, beautiful Merlot, and an amazing cheese platter. With all the best cheeses in the world.
You're like my wife. She loves her cheese. My wife and my daughter.
Wine and cheese. These are all
cheeseaholics.
Yeah, these are all things that give you terrible migraines. So I'd have my beautiful cheese platter and my wine and, some grapes and things like that. And then we would move on to, well, right now I'm in a cheesy mood. I probably wouldn't do the cheese platter and cheese fondue. It would be one or the other. I love cheese fondue, and we usually do it for New Year's. Then, but my main meal, oh my God. If it's my last meal, then I would move on to Mexican, and I'd have a margarita and some really good fresh guacamole with extra garlic and, really good chips and, ooey gooey. I like a simple, I love like a Mexican mixed platter. So you have the beef burrito and then maybe a beef or chicken enchilada and a
Mexican rice and all that stuff all around.
Stuff with the refried beans.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't have to worry about gas. So yes,
Nope.
refried beans, bring them on. I mean, I would after that probably be completely full, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Could you force a dessert in there or no?
yeah.
Would
Oh,
the
if it was
beans be too much? No more dessert.
no, if it was my last meal, come on. Of course I can force it in. My mom always said you have two stomachs. You can be absolutely full. You cannot eat another bite of your meal. But dessert's a different stomach. My favorite dessert. Oh my gosh. Holy smokes. Maybe like a lava, one of those lava molten cakes with
Oh,
vanilla ice cream,
yeah.
or or a big old hot fudge brownie sundae, or yeah, something ooey gooey with warm brownie. I think a hot fudge brownie with ice cream, hot fudge brownie sundae. So it's this brownie on the bottom, ice
Mhm.
cream on top, all
Top.
the dripping yummies and stuff.
Something nasty and messy
Yeah,
and comforting. Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Beatrice, thank you for giving me she's over an hour. I was trying to just do an hour, but I appreciate you giving me that extra 15 minutes. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for, oh gosh, I can't wait till my wife comes home. How did the interview come down? Oh, just wait till I tell you the Richard Dreyfuss story. Uh, it's been a lot of fun. I will have, once this is fully uploaded, when it comes to YouTube, I will have your website in the description. I do highly recommend people get the Krueger Curse, A Nightmare Before Elm Street. Highly recommend it. Um, it's like I said, it's got some dark stuff, but it's also got some hope. It's got Amanda is such a great character in it. And thank you for just being so open and honest and being you. And it was a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't I haven't laughed and had to compose myself so much in an interview in a long time. So I appreciate you.
Good. Well, and I want to thank you for having me on, and I want to thank all these wonderful people,
Yes, thanks to
Barb and
everybody.
John and everybody who's been, watching and listening. It's great to have you all here too.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. And check out her website. Like I said, it will be in the links. Knock on wood, Lauren Marie Taylor next weekend. I will tell her you say hello, and
Yes.
it'll be a fun time. But with this, I'm Eric. That is Miss B, and we'll see you in the next one.